Good morning. God is good. As I read the story of the woman in the alabaster box, so much courage and faith, it reminded me of another woman that I never grow tired of talking about. My mother, Lucy Mae Batson, she was a domestic worker. She cooked and cleaned for the affluent white families in our small town in which we lived. She was an excellent cook. She taught herself to make the meals for the families, like eggs with hollandaise sauce that we were not used to in our house. Yet she would bring the recipe back to our home, and she would add two other ingredients in those recipes. And one was love for her family, and the other was dignity. She would say, you know, baby, she said, dignity is something that you treasure. It defines who you are. It announces you when you walk into the room. She said, when I go to work every day, I take the love of my family with me. When I get to the stoop, before I enter that home, I put my dignity in the milk box because I refuse to take it into that environment where it could be tarnished. She would often talk about the story in which she took care of the little girl who lived in the house, and she washed, bathed her, cooked for her, combed her hair, made sure all was well before the family returned for supper. Many times when my mother would prepare dinner and prepare the table, the little girl, who was about my age at the time, would ask her mother, her parents, can Miss Lucy have dinner with us? To their chagrin, and they wanted to please their daughter, they said sure. My mother would often tell this story. She said, and I knew that I was not a guest at that table. I knew that I was unwanted at that table. She said, I would almost bet you that the minute I walked out the door, that they would discard the silverware that had touched my lips. I would look at that clock, and boy, did that old clock seem to sit still. When that clock struck 5, I would bid farewell. I would walk out the door, and I would reacquaint myself. I'd open that box and reacquaint myself with my dignity. And then I would begin my journey home because I had a family who loved me, waiting for me. I had my own little girl who was waiting anxious for me at the door. And with every step, I would say to myself, Lucy Mae, you are a child of God, a sweet, sweet child of God. I am remembered, as I remember my mother, I am reminded that I am too a child of God. Sometimes I am not always sure. I liken the alabaster box of the story, the woman in the story, the milk box that my mother would store her dignity in. and then reacquaint herself. She used to tell me, allow no one, baby, to strip you of your dignity. It is your God-given gift. And no matter what, you reach into that alabaster box and you get that. Don't allow anyone to shame you or put you down. Every day I offer my praises, and I do so by opening up my alabaster box. And I stand on the shoulders of Lucy Mae Batson, and I will continue to do that. And I offer up my praises, and I always remember that I deserve a seat at God's table.
Amen. Yes. Amen.